From Swoop, it's Take the Plunge, a podcast about how business owners decided to stop what they were doing and took the plunge to start their own business. We take a look at how they came to that decision and what those first crucial steps were in getting their business up and running. My name's Kieran, and I'll be your host for this episode. I'm delighted to be joined by Julia Vendramin, founder of LABELL-D. After 15 years in the fashion industry, working for brands like Hugo Boss, Burberry, Bally and Harry's of London, Julia launched LABELL-D alongside her husband Nicholas in 2021. This was done with a mission to make sustainable fashion the new normal. As a luxury retailer, they seek to drive change by promoting conscientious consumption through sustainable fashion lines. They carefully pick items made from recycled materials with an ethical supply chain. They recently partnered with Cara Delevingne and Karl Lagerfeld to feature an ethical, practical fashion line and are soon entering the rental fashion market. You're very, very welcome, Julia. It's brilliant to have you. How are you doing today?
Hey, thank you thank you for having me today. It's an absolute pleasure to be on this podcast with you. And yes, I'm good.
Great.
I'm excited to do this today. And
brilliant.
So let's go.
Let's talk indeed. So let's start at the beginning, just before LABELL-D was incepted. What were you doing and why did you decide it wasn't quite fulfilling you enough at the time and you wanted to go in and do start something yourself?
So I think, I can't really say that what I have done before wasn't necessarily fulfilling me, right? I have always been in the fashion industry, so my career started there and I'm still here. So this is now kind of 15 years back. But I think obviously, during that time I have seen, changes in the industry, right? So for example, we really could see working in the luxury side of the industry, that part is contaminated to a certain extent by the more fast fashion cycles, right? Like kind of accelerating the whole industry to a level where if you really love that industry and you love the product and the element of design and creativity, that kind of started to be less and less relevant. Instead, it was more and more relevant to churn out products quite fast, right? And so that was one part which I personally didn't like, but also could see that was impacting businesses, the teams inside, and then obviously, on a really much wider scheme, obviously the planet. And so I think that's when we, COVID hit, kind of said, okay, that's the part which we don't particularly love about the industry. How can we actually remove us? Because myself and also Nick, the second co-founder, we have been always in leadership positions within the industry, but we couldn't really make a change. And so we kind of felt we have to get out of this and build something by ourselves, which then can actually, really transition or accelerate the change to a more circular economy, which is really kind of well needed.
Yeah, absolutely. Not a small challenge at all. So obviously a pretty big mission to tackle, but just even getting down into the bolts of it, when you're trying to conceptualize something as big as a fashion label and coming up with a business around it, what were the first kind of bits that yourself and Nicholas started to tackle to get operational?
So I think for us, the really big element was to start conversation with brands. I mean, obviously we had a lot of experience, but we wanted to hear it firsthand, not just from the brands we were working with, but also other partner brands, small brands, but also other big, global brands. What are their challenges? What the problems they are facing, to become more sustainable? Because also it's not just, us as a consumer. Obviously, we want to have more transparency. We want to buy better, but there's also, still a lot of legislations missing, which is also difficult for the brands to actually act towards certain goals, right? The goals they set for themselves, and many goals are for different brands are quite different, and that's one of the challenges. So I think we wanted to really understand, what are their pain points, and then obviously also better understand what are the pain points for the consumer. And that's we put quite a lot of effort into research at the beginning to speak with both parts and really kind of see what are the pain points for both and how can we solve them. And then quite fast, the idea of, a really truly circular economy platform was born because, we know that, brands don't yet power rental, they don't power resale themselves. So that is certainly, a platform which is powering that for them without any additional hassle, and also lets them actually monetize during the process. is something they were seeing as a really big benefit.
Yeah.
And then on the other side, we have the consumer, who we know today is struggling to navigate a circular economy because of all those different channels. So it was also very clear, if we have a platform which offers a very seamless journey between those different channels, then we would also have a win-win for the consumer. And so that's how kind of LABELL-D was born. So a lot of market research at the beginning.
I suppose then just digging into that market research, because again, tying back to the mission, and it's very much on sustainability and showing that the brands are doing the right thing by the customer. So that probably takes you into a lot of research into the supply chain. How do things get made? How do they get processed? How does it ship? How easy a task was that? Because that seems something that's a big gargantuan task from a research project. How did you break that down? Where were you setting benchmarks of quality? Like, talk to me a little bit about that.
I love that question. I mean, that was probably one of our biggest pain points, right?
I'd say so.
So, I mean, we started LABELL-D really in 2020, but that's, let's say, going back to when we started conversations. And one of the biggest pain points was to understand what is actually the right avenue to go down when it comes to sustainability. At the beginning, we were like, okay, many brands are investing into more sustainable collections, right? Then now we started speaking to quite a lot of activists and also really expert in the field of sustainability. So for example, Fashion for Good, organizations like that, or the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. Or we spoke to one of our advisors is from the Plastic Planet. So she's the founder of the Plastic Planet.
Cool.
And we really then understood that it's very difficult to classify products as this is sustainable and this isn't.
Yes.
So the true answer to this is circularity, which means you just need to keep the products in circulation for as long as possible while investing and also, let's say, promoting materials which are probably made better and, let's say, innovative initiatives in the industry. But it took us almost a year to truly understand, what's the right avenue to go down to really speak about sustainable fashion and consumption.
Which probably shows you just how hard it is for the consumer, because how is it they can make sense of it? Because you'll have big brands who have huge marketing budgets that can making something perceived to be super green, but how do you? So what I'd be really curious to understand in terms of some of those advisors and policymakers that you chatted to, what are the things that they see as good characteristics in a supply chain or selection of materials versus what do they see as bad characteristics or greenwashing? Like, what are the kind of good and bad points you're constantly looking at? I appreciate you said kind of the longevity of how long a garment is in cycle being a good one, for instance.
Yeah, so I think, there are very different elements when it comes to, let's say, the supply chain, especially of fashion, right? So there's missing transparency. Many brands don't even know where their products are coming from, and this is already one of the biggest problems we have. So if we would have, already the transparency where our products made, and you have an impact on actually are there the right working conditions, what kind of chemicals are used, what materials are truly used, right? Then there we would know where to start making changes. So this is, let's say, transparency is one of the biggest pain points, and this often comes actually with maybe more mid-sized to smaller brands who don't necessarily know where the original raw materials are coming from. So you need to be very careful of then to classify what is sustainable and what are we classifying as organic and non-organic and so on. So that was one of their first things. Be quite careful. Not everything which is organic is truly. I think another big point about, let's say, the supply chain is that today, for example, when it comes to polyester, right? So let's say recycled polyester is often made in the fashion industry with, let's say, bottles. But actually, when you look behind the scenes, it would be better to make a bottle again out of that polyester piece than bringing it into fashion. Because when you then, at the end of the life of that product, you can't recycle it again. But a bottle you could recycle
again. Okay, fascinating.
So, there's a lot of questions. So like today, even what we think in fashion is potentially better might not necessarily be in the long time. And that is with vegan leathers and with everything. You almost find to every element, you find a downside, right? So I think like one of the biggest things we need to do is truly invest into innovative, let's say, initiative materials, push it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, really, like the true answer is to keep your products, mix your old with new.
Because that's so interesting. Because like, there's a really good point you make. You could recycle something and make it, and then market the hell of it and say, hey, this is recyclable goods. But if that product actually can't be used again, then it's not as good as something like that. So I suppose taking an example that they've managed to really dominate the mass consumer space, and I can see them on labelled. If you take like Veja and their runners and their vegan runners, what materials or products are they using that seems to have got that kind of mass market engagement that seems to be quite effective? And just curious to understand that a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, it's always difficult also for, we have multi-brand platforms of all our partners, right?
Yeah.
But yes, I mean, when you come to Veja, I think it's an innovative product because they are really, apart from using maybe the most, kind of like sustainable materials, they're investing a lot of their efforts and also money into actually building their facilities under the right conditions, right, in South America. And so there's a lot of investment going behind the product to make the whole chain transparent, traceable, and then obviously more sustainable, which...
Yeah, well, I suppose then going on to what you were alluding to there, was pretty remarkable, given that yourself and Nicholas started this in 2021. If I go on Label today, it's pretty household names there. You've got Burberry, you've got Gucci, you've got Nike, you've got Veja, we just touched on. Most people will struggle to navigate those big names in terms of engagement. So like, how do you get your foot in the door in terms of talking to those kind of gigantic companies? What was yours and Nicholas's approach like? Talk me through how you got them listed.
I think our approach was exactly the way it is, right? Many consumers wouldn't necessarily connect those brands immediately with sustainability.
Yes.
But when you look behind the scenes, actually those luxury players, they have invested into sustainable initiatives for more than 15 years, right? So they own most of their supply chain. So when you look into how they actually work and transparency and all of those elements, they are really very much on the forefront. So this was, let's say, one point. But then also we know, having been in the merchandising space for many years, we know that consumers really want to buy brands. And it's also what sells on our platform the most. So it's about shifting this perception of like, I need to constantly buy something to buying better, buying products which are actually high quality right from the beginning, will, those brands deliver, certainly. And then keeping those products, keeping them, bringing them back, reselling them, renting them. So it's more about that.
And well, that's kind of fascinating in its own right. So in most marketplaces, obviously you've got getting the consumers on, but also getting the suppliers on both ends, which is doubling the challenge for the business owner in that area. But with the same things, you're adding a third one into the mix, which is constant education, because by the same things, if you educate your consumer to buy better, they'll hopefully make the right choices and make the right selections when it comes to purchasing sustainably. So in terms of like that mantra of buying better, have you invested a lot in the content creation or education in that space? And has that been effective for you in gathering new customers?
So I would say that is, let's say, to come. So that's one area where we have to invest heavily in, and that's really part of our strategy and plan. We have maybe not yet invested that much in that space because also we want to be quite careful with our messaging. So there's a little bit of, we have been thinking a lot in the last 3 months about how do we actually start this? Who are the right collaborators? How do we really get out to the consumer with a different tone of voice than what you have seen with other platforms so far? So that's it's another big area of focus.
Well, I suppose then going back to that marketplace dynamic, obviously, crucially, to get the customers on the beginning, you want to have a healthy selection that resonates with the business's goals and mission. At what point or what kind of targets did yourself and Nicholas set to say, hey, we want this much supply in the marketplace before opening it up? How did you kind of map that out before kind of pushing the big red button, so to speak, to go live?
I think, let's say, we kind of wanted to have a nice portfolio of brands. So we always said between like 20 to probably 25 players with, let's say, this kind of idea of, wide price mixes. So you would combine the more luxury brands with more like premium brands, like, Vecha, for example. So that was always our idea. So that we kind of executed, ticked the box. It was then another important element of like looking good, right? Because obviously we are playing with, with kind of like quite powerful brands. Mm-hmm. So that was one other element. And let's say kind of ticking those two boxes, we said, okay, let's go live, test the concept actually with consumers. And I mean, the response has been amazing in the first 3 months of trading. Mm-hmm. We are growing, kind of doubling our revenues every second or every month. Let's say we are doubling them. So it's has been a nice journey. I think now the next step is like really truly implementing, our circular model. So building technology and then kind of pushing, to your point, community and
And in terms of getting those initial customers to test it out, see if you got the right selection, seeing if you're going right down the right path, what was your strategy in terms of going out and finding those customers and getting them onto the platform?
So, I mean, here we have been really kind of, let's say, we tested PPC, so, paid marketing. You can Google, get consumers coming through the page. And that was really, like you said, very much to test. Do we have the right assortment? Is like the site resonating? Do we have the right conversion rate? Do customers return to the page, right? And so all of that is kind of now proven. Now the second step is to obviously, invest into organic marketing, which we are quite, that's kind of like we see that as a big element of success in the future. So, and that's to come. So stay with us.
And just on the PPC element, there's a lot of experimentation in there around kind of keyword analysis. Whether do you go Google, do you go Bing, Instagram, TikTok, wherever you decide to place this. Is that an area yourself and Nicholas were familiar with, or you're just like, not our bag, we're going to outsource, bring someone in and work with them? What was your approach on the kind of paid media strategy?
So let's say so we always knew we would probably start testing the concept with as we have an agency who is working with us on the PPC side. So that was always clear that for the start we work with an agency for the more paid advertisement. Right now we are bringing a person on board for, let's say, the organic growth. So everything which would be social media related is actually our next big announcement, because she's quite a public face. And she's starting to join us now mid of September, so starting from next week, and she will really drive that area together with us. No
doubt. I think, speaking from, I know, completely different sector, but from our side, when we made the investment into the SEO and search dynamic within Swoop, made a huge impact. Jimmy, who we brought in to head that channel, has just done an unbelievable job, and putting the right content out really does help kind of breed what you're trying to do from a community point of view. And I suppose going from the marketing aspect and then flipping into the actual platform itself, because your business is so visual and it's about how product is displayed and how the attachment the consumer has to how it looks and what it will feel like then, the website and platform, I'd imagine, is incredibly important, both in terms of how it looks and how it functions. So had you guys had experience working and building websites before, or was this kind of a new thing that you guys were experiencing for the very first time?
So we did have some experience. So we had a startup actually before, so like 10 years ago, which was another marketplace for, let's say, small independent boutiques around Europe. So we did it for 2 years and then sold the business fairly fast to, let's say, the tech company who was building it for us. and went back into the more kind of corporate world. But let's say the experience kind of stayed with us right from there. But we also did bring expertise into the team right from the beginning. So we have one person who is really focused on that. So he's our CEO. He runs the whole e-commerce side, and he has done that for 15 years. That was his expertise. And then we have a CTO, which is also on board in building the tech. Yeah. So I mean, as much kind of overarching experience we have, we do, we need to bring expertise in that field.
Yeah, how important is that kind of understanding your strengths and where other people's strengths are and how to bring them in and manage that?
I mean, this is a good one. I think, let's say, this is probably, as a founder, one of the most important parts to kind of really, quite fast understand where your weaknesses are, right?
Yeah.
And so I think we both, like, our expertise is product, branding, kind of all of those more visually nice things. Nick is also very strong on finance and the more number side. Yeah. But we always knew on tech, we wouldn't say we are the most tech savvy people, so we really need help there. Yeah. And let's say, obviously, on the driving the digital business, we were also quite clear. And now we are bringing, as I was saying, we bring someone on for the marketing side, which was also clear there. We need a bit more support. Yeah. So I think it's about really accepting that you can't do everything alone.
Very true. Wise words. And just hearing you speak, Julia, it's clear you're always looking for insights or nuggets from data or numbers to help inform what comes next. Do you have like analytics running the whole time, whether it's, I don't know, a Shopify style system or a Google Analytics feeding you information or addictive notifications telling you when you've sold something? How much does that help you influence what to do next?
So we have all of what you just mentioned. That's like kind of our daily dashboards, right, where we go. Yeah. So again, I think at the moment, like we are page driven, but we want to swap this now. So we know exactly it needs to be more investment into SEO, into organic community build. So that's our kind of strategy for the next, for always, but that's really a focus for the next months to come. Yeah. And then it's like, bringing more products on board, updating the site. And I think as a digital business, digital platform, you never stop. Yeah. Your technology never stops. We are a baby. Yeah. We are at our baby steps. So now we need to start crawling and then maybe running.
And do you ever look at some sort of ratio between the amount of users you have and the number of products on there, right, so that you try and marry them to be a healthy balance of both? Or how just always fascinated in that marketplace area, how you kind of keep an eye on it?
Yes, I mean, product ratio is like super important, and that's what we look at. So also like how are all the brands which we have in our portfolio, how are they presented? We need to kind of make sure that seasonally we rotate things out and upload the right products. So all of that is like, yes, we are looking at that kind of daily. Then we realize often, oh shit, we still are only 10 people, so we can't do all of this in a day, but step by step. Yeah.
And let's talk funding for a second. Like most early stage startups, you don't have a bank flush with unlimited amount of cash. Where have you guys gone to look to how to fund the business initially? Was that challenging? Talk me through that process of trying to get funding and putting it into the business.
Yeah. So I think, let's say, general fashion is always like one area, I think, where investors, want to see traction, right? Because there's obviously a business of a lot of competition. And so the big element is how do you differentiate yourself? I think our journey has been we self-funded a lot of the initial part of the business. Yes. Founding journey, let's say that was all self-funded. We then knew we wanted to bring some strategic people on board who could be an advisor to the business and an investor. And we kind of did like a small family and friends round, but they are more than capital. It was important to bring the right mix of people on board. And then we raised kind of, let's say, a first equity round at the beginning of the year, which kind of really gave us the ability to develop what we have developed so far, bring the website live, And now we are raising. At the moment, we are raising a 2 million round,
Nice.
and I think that this will really kind of get us truly started.
Great. And in terms of that first round, did you use things like SCIS or EIS tax rules to get money in that way?
Yeah, actually, I mean, that was a really important tool for us. I think SCIS and EIS is an amazing tool in the UK.
Yeah.
So yes, that was one of the first steps to get that approved and then start.
And I can imagine in your initial, say, SCIS raise, it was a lot about yourself and Nicholas, your backgrounds, what you believed in, and the mission. But I'd say the 2 million round is slightly different because you're live in the market. You've got real customers, real brand engagement. So how is the pitch, the funding pitch slightly changed? Like, what are you talking into now that you weren't quite doing in that first round, for instance?
I think we kind of went from dream to reality, right? So
I love that. Yeah.
So you have like, you have your trust, right? And,
hockey sticks. Sorry. What was the way there? Our conservative estimate is this giant hockey stick that is sure to happen. Believe you me. Right. But yeah, so I suppose in this new pitch, I suppose it's talking into the real life metrics of the here and the
yes, exactly.
Yeah. Love it.
It's changing, right? You speak like matrices, you speak like reality instead of, let's say, before it was a piece of paper which you pitch, and now it's it comes to like, well, what do you need to really drive the business to the next stage? So
yeah, exactly. Well, I suppose digging in on that. So you've obviously, people talk a lot of scaling when they talk about equity financing.
Yeah.
So you've gotten the team to 10. You've got an agency model alongside. What does a 2 million check allow you guys to do in terms of where would you put that to work, and what would the people operations of the business change as a result of the investment?
Yeah, so I think let's say, we decided to go live, not having the whole technology ready, right? Because we really wanted to get an understanding of and feel of like, is there reaction from the customer before we start building something out which is potentially not, relating, right? So that's, let's say, why we kind of launched the website. And also the website was always the idea to actually drive community, now to really start engaging with like the audience and get an audience almost lined up. Yeah. For once we, have kind of, let's say, the complete journey live, which is happening towards the end of this year. And so let's say it was really, now this round is going to help us to finalize tech.
Awesome.
And really start pushing marketing and team. So we need to build a team to allow us also to nurture our relationship with the brands we have on the site, build out the platform, and so I mean all the areas we touched on, from tech to marketing to more operations, kind of needs support. So it will really go into tech, marketing, team. So I would say the usual aspects.
Amazing. Well, Julia, honestly, just thank you so much for coming on and sharing Label story today. It's like, for anyone listening, there's so many valuable nuggets there, particularly anyone thinking of entering into the fashion space. You have a really refreshing attitude in terms of, as I said, understanding your own core strengths and where to bring people into it. You obviously guys live by analytics to help think of like what's next and understand you can only do little bits at once and try and scale the operation. So there's so much good nuggets there. And for anyone listening who hasn't, definitely go on to Labelled, check it out, educate yourself, check out the awesome brands that are on there, and take a look. But honestly, Julia, you've been brilliant, and I really hope you guys continue to smash it and have as painless as possible equity fundraise, if that is possible, because they are excruciating. So hopefully it's as painless as possible, and you guys can get that 2 million to kick on to the next stage.
Thank you so much, and thank you for giving me the opportunity today to have that podcast with you. Yeah, so thanks so much.
Awesome.
It was amazing.